Good afternoon, everyone. I told my committee we were going to start on time today, and we've got two more that will straggle in here, but we are going to get started. We are going to start with the University System of Maryland office. Sarah Baker is our analyst, and Dr. Jay Perman will be coming up to the table. Surprise.
I know, I should have known my times. Okay, we're going to start with Exhibit 1, which is transfer students on page 4. And this is one of USM's key components to growing its enrollment. In 23, community college transfers accounted for a quarter of all transfers, and this is down from 32.6% in 2018. Overall, community college transfers comprised 21.7% of USM's new undergraduate students in 23, and this is down from 26.1% since the pandemic. Exhibit 2 on page 5 breaks down the trend in transfers between those coming from community colleges and other institutions. Transfers reached their highest enrollment in 2019 and has subsequently dropped 7.1% in 23. The largest decline occurred in 21, which can be attributed to a drop in the number of those transferring from out-of-state institutions. And this may have indicated that students may wanted to stay closer to home during the pandemic. Enrollment of transfers rebounded in 23, increasing 7.5%, mainly due to those transferring from out-of-state institutions. Of concern is the continuing decline in community college transfers. However, with an 8.3% increase in enrollment at the community colleges, it is expected transfers will increase in the coming years. Exhibit 3 on page 6 shows the majority of community college transfers enrolled at one of 4 USM institutions. And overall, the proportion of transfers enrolling at one of these institutions increased from 78.1% in 2018 to 80.3% in 23. Exhibit 4 on page 7 shows between 19 and 23 an increasing portion of community college transfers are coming in as juniors, increasing from 74% to 55%, with those coming in as freshmen and sophomores declining. Moving on to enrollment at the regional centers on page 8. As shown in Exhibit 5, enrollment at the centers declined 5.5% between 2018 and 2020. And this may be attributed to the pandemic and the challenges related to remote learning. Enrollment increased 12.1% in 21 due to enrollment growth at Shady Grove related to UMB's medical cannabis program. In 23, enrollment at the centers fell 10.5%, or by 264 full-time equivalent students. And since 21, enrollment has fallen 13.8% to 2,250 full-time equivalent students in 23. We asked the Chancellor to comment on the continuing enrollment decline at the regional centers and if the academic and business models needs to be reconsidered given the changing demographics and potential students and the competition for fewer students. Turning to the budget on page 9, Exhibit 6 shows a proposed budget for system office. And when excluding the impact of the 24 generally salary increase in 25, which are excluded in the 24 working appropriation, state funds increased 16.1% or $4.1 million. The increases include $4 million for funding guidelines attainment, which system office will allocate to the institution with the lowest attainment level in 21. And the allowance includes about $354,000 for various statewide costs. In addition, there is a decrease of over $570,000 relating to adjusted the turnover to 6%. Exhibit 7 on page 11 shows the proposed budget for Shady Grove. And again, when excluding the impact of the 24 general salary increase in 25, state funds declined 16.5% or $5 million. And this is mainly related to one-time funding of $5 million provided in 24 for workforce development initiatives. In addition, there's a $244,000 decrease relating to adjusting the turnover. The allowance does provide $127,000 for various statewide costs. The recommendation is on page 14, is to see the USM overview for system-wide recommendations. And that concludes my presentation.
Great job. Any questions? I don't see any. Dr. Perman, would you like to come up to the table? Bring your team. Welcome.
Thank you. Chair King, Senators, As always, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the USM office budget. And as always, I thank Ms. Baker for her analysis. With me at the table, to my immediate right, Ellen Herbst, who is the Senior Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, and to her right, Dr. Allison Wren, who's the Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs. What is the office? The USM office manages the system's major organizational functions, which include our core missions in academic excellence, as well as financial stewardship. As you see in my written testimony, the breadth of our responsibilities is wide. Fortunately, I'm blessed with expertise that's deep. Our work at the system office is aligned with the state's priorities, opening up college access through our regional higher education centers, something that I'll speak to in just a moment. Exploiting, scaling new learning science and technologies so that we can improve student outcomes, smoothing the transfer process for Maryland's community college students, investing in early stage ventures that are spun out of our universities to keep innovation and innovators right here in Maryland, something that clearly is important to all of us, expanding programs that engage our students in committed citizenship that changes the world. The system is particularly noted for highlighting civic engagement among our students. And then finally, and in my last opportunity to talk with you, you all talked about it, connecting the system to pre-K to 12 schools so that we can prepare young learners for college. That's something that we focus on at the system level. I do need to point out that the system office does all of this as one of the leanest operations in the country. Less than 1% of the entire system budget goes to administrative costs at the system office. We are the fourth lowest out of 29 comparable higher ed systems. So we talk about efficiency and effectiveness. I think we deliver on it. With that, let me turn to the issue that Ms. Baker raised. I'm asked to comment on enrollment declines at our regional higher education centers and whether we should reconsider the model given changing student demographics, the competition for fewer students. Our three regional higher ed centers, the universities at Shady Grove, the USM at Southern Maryland, the USM at Hagerstown, these centers allow thousands of students each year to pursue a degree that for many of them would be out of reach otherwise. We know that as lawmakers, you are concerned about education availability in underserved rural areas. And these centers, particularly the two in Southern and Western Maryland, are critical to expanding the access you want. And it's not just the underserved regions that benefit. It's the underserved students. First-gen students, students of color, students with financial need, students new to the country. I'm being perhaps very direct in making these statements, but I need to say that, and I know I shouldn't be dealing in anecdotes, I talk to these students. I come out and visit them. I have lunch with them. I understand why they need these regional centers. And those students tend to stay in the region where they're educated, which in turn enriches the local community. You know as well as I do, because you talk to these families, these students have work and family obligations that prevent them from traveling long distances for their education. Many want to take advantage of the programs these centers offer, especially those that then connect students to local opportunities, either for more education or with local employers, industries, internships. Many will come into and out of college on their, and we have to recognize that it's on their terms and as their needs dictate. And at these centers, we strive to find the support that helps them do that. Many simply, and they've told me this and they tell you this, I'm sure, they want to stay close to home, where an affordable education is nearby, and it's an education that's offered by what I think arguably are some of the state's best institutions. All of these observations seem to me to be good reasons that collectively we have to keep these RHECs strong. We do see strength, particularly where we focus the most attention, namely student success. So I'm going to give you some data. Graduation rates at USM Hagerstown and USG are the same as or better than rates at our traditional universities. 77% of the students who transfer into USG graduate within 4 years, compared with 69% of all transfer students across the system. For USMSM, it's too new to give you the data I'm giving you for Hagerstown and Shady Grove. That said, there are challenges. As the analyst points out, as Ms. Baker points out, enrollment has declined. Not surprisingly, because the students attending our regional centers are predominantly transfers from the state's community colleges, where in recent years enrollment has similarly dropped. As community colleges recovered their enrollment post-pandemic, yes, we're anticipating the same recovery at our centers. Complicating matters, though, is the fact that online course delivery, which intentionally spiked during COVID, made it difficult to distinguish enrollment between the regional center, where the student had been attending class, and the partner university, which actually delivers the course. And as some courses remain online, even post-pandemic, we see hits to REC enrollment because it's the partner university that gets the head count. It's the old who gets the credit. To address this, centers are working with us to make sure that enrollment is counted accurately, but they're also working with their partner universities to expand in-person and hybrid programs. And in fact, for many programs not offered online, were it not for the regional center, students would have to leave the area or opt out of college altogether. I do want to make a couple of additional points about our regional center. We celebrate the fact that they're serving right now about 3,400 students. But the center itself, this is not only about enrollment. The centers themselves, the physical campuses, the buildings, the resources they house, that's important too. I just mentioned that the drop in enrollment is in part attributable to the rise in online courses. But the availability of online courses doesn't mean that students don't need in-person spaces. A quiet place to study, a space big enough to collaborate with fellow students, places that are digitally rich, like libraries where they can access materials. Our centers offer these spaces not only to their own students, but to any student enrolled online at a partner university. And our regional centers are community spaces too, and their work is closely tied to regional priorities. With community partners, the centers identify workforce shortages. They offer high-need programs to close them in business, healthcare, education, social work, counseling. And this isn't workforce development in the abstract. This is with as much discussion as we can have with local companies, hospitals, schools, agencies, talking out specific workforce needs. If you look at the centers, you'll see the region's priorities. At Southern Maryland, the cutting-edge autonomous technologies research that's going on at USMSM is done in partnership with Southern Maryland's biggest employer, the U.S. Navy, on another tack altogether, and I take some personal pride in having helped to put this together. The Kennedy Krieger Institute, which has been an organization that I had the privilege of serving as a physician for many years. The Kennedy Krieger Institute is leasing space at the center to serve children who need education and care in their own Southern Maryland community, rather than needing to travel up to Baltimore. And given Kennedy Krieger's commitment to education and training, which again, I had the privilege over the years of personally being a part of, I'm quite sure that the presence of Kennedy Krieger Institute will begin to make possible education programs in the therapies that the Kennedy Krieger offers to students in Southern Maryland. USG, right in the middle of the I-270 biotech corridor, they are part and parcel, and we'll make sure they're a bigger part of the partners that have assembled to create the Institute of Health Computing in North Bethesda. Shady Grove and its students will be a part of that. It'll be an opportunity for students to get hands-on experience in this emerging sector. The USM at Hagerstown, it offers a physician assistant program through Frostburg State to fill the shortage of primary care providers in the region. I remember being part of a big celebration to, so to speak, cut the ribbon on that program about 5 years ago, and we considered that important to the community, and I hope they consider it important to us. And now that Washington County's top employer, Meritus Health, is developing a school of osteopathic medicine in Hagerstown, I've had the opportunity to talk on several occasions with the Meritus CEO, Dr. Joshi, and we're looking at ways that the USM Hagerstown can partner with Meritus to help prepare prospective students for medical school. And finally, these regional centers are the spaces where many young learners are first exposed to higher education, whether they ultimately enroll at the center or not. The centers host summer programs, STEM programs, research days, coding tournaments, pitch competitions, art shows, open houses, and tours. They expose young learners to a world of ideas and to the people and places that nurture them. They plant the college seed and hopefully it grows. Our regional centers, in my opinion, have enormous value, even beyond the value they provide the students they enroll. They're in many ways extensions of the system and our mission. I would say here before you, they have my unreserved support and will always have my advocacy for additional resources. Thank you for listening. I'm certainly happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Perman. You know, I've had a ton of people in my office, from students to various different colleges, and that's all I've heard. The subject that comes up is how do we get to our younger kids, that we've got to start earlier than 10th grade or 11th grade to get them interested in higher education, that we need to start in elementary schools. And I mean, the students feel strongly about it too. So I'm happy to hear you mention that anyway.
It's a strong interest of mine. I think you know how much I agree with what you're saying.
Right. Well, it's got to be our focus, for sure. Senator Bailey.
I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, right? I mean, Kennedy Krieger is a game changer completely for our entire region. And the support that we got from you and your institution, and to be able to work that out to get a building, I mean, it was right time ahead of where we thought that we would be able to be there. Now we have a facility that's open. The employees are living in St. Mary's County. It has changed the lives of not only those children, but those children's families. And we really do appreciate and getting the opportunity to meet with you and to meet with your regents when they came down and talk about it and pitch the idea and to get the cooperative spirit. We really do appreciate it, and we know how big it is for all of us. And now I just met with them the other day, and they're talking about regional centers in other parts of the state. And we're so happy that we could have moved this project forward, and we are happy to work with them to see however we can help them.
Senator, thank you, but it wouldn't have happened without your support and advocacy as well.
So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Senator Corderin.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for all the information. And we've had discussions before, and I think you will find no bigger champion, I know, in Western Maryland than I for USMH, and we are very, very appreciative of that. The Physician's Assistant Program, like you spoke of, has been a phenomenal success. So much, as you guys are aware, and folks that may not be aware, they turn kids away, or students away, rather, every year. Happy to hear about the collaboration with Meritus going forward. As we talk down here about the medical school, it's good to hear that conversation happening with you as well. That being said, the decline in enrollment is a concern. And I don't say that in a punitive manner, but what can we do to help increase that enrollment? Is it additional programming opportunities? Is it marketing? I mean, we have a new, I don't know what Jacob's official title is there. Executive Director, I apologize. And so I know there's been some transition there as well, and coming off the pandemic, and there's a lot of challenges, I understand. But we want to see that thrive, not just for all the things that you said about from the academic perspective, but really also what you said about the community aspect. I mean, that has transformed our downtown community. It has been a beacon of redevelopment, revitalization in downtown Hagerstown, and we are so proud of that center. And we want to see it thrive and succeed. So whatever we can do to help add to that and increase that enrollment. And you may going to be speaking about it later, and I didn't want to jump the gun here, but just wanted to put that out there as far as, because when we see 36% decline, that is a pause for concern. And we are hopeful that, you know, with the dual enrollment coming to the community college, maybe there will be some advantages gained there also. But we need to, I don't know what it is, but we'd love to see more students there to be able to do all the wonderful things there.
Senator, we're in this together, and everything that you mentioned needs to go into the mix to build that center up, to make it the economic driver that you've talked about, and to make it a vehicle for these students to have productive lives in the community. You mentioned the community college. We've had very good discussions with leadership at Hagerstown Community College. I think we need to build on that relationship. you'd all expect me to say this, and I'm going to say it because it's true. Those centers are under-resourced. The ideas are all great, and we need to commit to them and find a way to do them. A little more money would help.
If I could add briefly, your idea about more programming is spot on. As I've been out there a couple times, and the healthcare realm is so important, but so is the logistics industry out there. Every time I drive out there, there's a new big building of logistical, so I can get my Amazon products in a day. And so I think Director Ashby, I don't know if you know how much you've talked to him, but he's got good ideas. He's partnering with our universities. He's working every day. And the great thing is he's from that community. And so he has relationships with the community colleges there and with the business people. And so I think, again, we talk about this a lot with our board, this patience of the cycle it takes in academia, which is not as quick as business sometimes. But we are working towards it, and we are excited to continue to partner with all of you.
One last thing I'll add. Director Ashby has been phenomenal. I've had a pleasure and the opportunity to sit down with him. Part of the experience here is that I'm on the local board, obviously there, so the USMH board, they have one, I think the sitting senator and sitting delegate, so been in multiple conversations that you spoke of, and have tremendous amount of respect for him and want to provide him the support necessary. And I guess that's what I'm getting at as far as whatever is needed there, please let us know. Understanding resources, we get that, I hear that. But when you talk about programming and what we can do there to enhance and offer more programming. So yes, so thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated, Senator.
Dr. Perman, as much as I enjoy having you come in listening to you talk, let me just say that I have had students from across the university system that have been in to see to me, and I just enjoy them so much and learn so much from them, and I think they enjoy coming over here too. But the kids that are coming before me are really focused on where they're going. Very, very impressive.
Well, thank you, Chair King. They're why we exist.
For sure, for sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Sarah Baker is our analyst, and Dr. Valerie Shears Ashby will be coming up to the table with one of our favorite people, Jake Weissman. I had to make a promise that I wouldn't embarrass him today.
It's okay, you can do it.
Okay, I'm going to start with Exhibit 1 on page 5, which shows the trends in first-time applications, which reached a high of almost 12,000 in 2019. And despite the number of applications declining 6.4% during the pandemic, the number of students enrolling increased 19% to 2,025 in fall 21. In fall 22, there was an uptick in applications, and enrollment increased to 2,144 students, representing UMBC's largest incoming class. Exhibit 2 on page 7 shows trends in fall undergraduate enrollment, which declined for a fourth year, decreasing 1.3% or 135 students in 23. As you see, enrollment of first-time students increased in fall 21 and 22, which was intentional. The UMBC was aligned these increases with their financial aid optimization strategy. However, UMBC decreased the size of its incoming class in fall 23 in order to ensure they had the financial and human resources needed to ensure the success of the 3 classes of first-time students. Of concern is the continuing decline in the number of transfer students, which have decreased 33.3% since fall 2018. Overall, undergraduate enrollment is about 5% below the pre-pandemic level of 11,500 students. Turning to Exhibit 3 on page 8 in the retention rates, after increasing to its highest rate of 87% with the 22 cohort, the second rate declined 80% with the 22 cohort, and the third-year rate also reached a high of 72% with the 22 cohort and declined to 66% with the 22 cohort. And these declines reflect the impact the pandemic had on students returning to campus. And I would note with the resumption of more on normal operations, the second-year rate has increased to 82%. Exhibit 4 on page 9 shows the 6-year graduation rates. And overall, rates have remained fairly steady across all the cohorts and improved to their highest level with the 28 2018 cohorts exceeding 70%. Exhibit 5 on page 10 compares the 6-year graduation rates of Pell and non-Pell first-time and full-time students and transfers. And overall, the transfer students tend to graduate at a higher rate than first-time, full-time students. In 2021, all groups reached their highest rates exceeding 70%. Turning to affordability on Exhibit 6 on page 11 compares the cost of attendance to the net average price. And I just want to note that the decline in 21 is an anomaly due to the campus being closed and the waiving of several mandatory fees due to students attending remotely. So in general, when you're comparing 22 to 20, the net price increased about 12%. Exhibit 7 on page 12 shows spending on institutional aid, which has increased over 50% or $11.1 million since 2017. While spending on scholarships has grown $5.6 million since 2018, that spent on need-based aid decreased by 4.3%. And overall expenditures on need-based aid have comprised a smaller portion of spending, declining from 23.8% in 2018 to 19.2% in 22. So we asked the President to comment on the decline in spending on need-based aid. On page 13 is discussion regarding the impact of the FAFSA simplification. So overall, UMBC estimates about 77 students may lose their Pell Award, and about 344 students could see a reduction in the reward. Since this could have a negative impact on retaining and graduating these students, UMBC has decided to make these students whole, which is estimated to cost about $1 million and 25. Exhibit 8 on page 14 shows the budget changes by program area for 23 and 24. Overall expenditures increased $25.4 million, while education and general expenditures increased $31.7 million. The $17.8 million increase in instruction is mainly due to additional funding for the College of Engineering and Information Technology and the Division of Professional Studies, which have both seen significant increases in their enrollment. Institutional support grows by $9 million, mainly due to funds relating to Empowering Initiative and the hiring of new positions. The decrease you see of $4.6 million in academic support is just related to expenditures being inadvertently budgeted under instruction. I would note that in 23, UMBC was able to transfer $30.4 million to the fund balance and is listed on page 15. This can be partly attributed to interest rate earnings exceeding the budget amount by 932% or around $7.5 million, and graduate enrollment exceeding projections, resulting in a surplus of revenue. Turning to Exhibit 9 on page 16 in the proposed budget. Again, when excluding the impact of the 24 general salary increases and the 25 allowance, state funds declined 1.5% or $3.1 million. The decrease is mainly due to $5.7 million relating to increasing the turnover to 6%. The allowance does include over $926,000 for various statewide costs. There is $700,000 increased funding for the Maryland Technology Internship Program, which would bring the total funding for this program to $1.1 million, and $400,000 as mandated to help UMBC's research and development activities. Exhibit 10 on page 17, you can see the impact the pandemic has had on the composition of revenues. Prior to 2020, the proportion of revenues was fairly stable. And with the campus closing in the spring of 2020 and refunds provided to the students, auxiliary revenues fell by $19.5 million. And in 21, with the reduced occupancy of residence hall and the de-densifying of campus, auxiliary revenues only accounted for 5% of total revenues. Auxiliary revenues have since rebounded with the return to normal operations and comprise 17% of revenues. Tuition and fees now comprise 34% of revenues compared to 37% before the pandemic, reflecting a decline in enrollment. And state funds comprise a greater portion of revenue since the pandemic, increasing from 35% to 41% in 24. Exhibit 11 on page 20 compares authorized and filled positions between 2019 and 24. When excluding research and public service, the vacancy rate has increased from 5.4% to 10.4%. 4 program areas, instruction, academic support, institutional support, and operations and maintenance of plants, experienced double-digit percentage increase in the number of unfilled positions. And this increase in number of unfilled positions indicates the continuing challenge of hiring and retaining personnel since the end of the pandemic. So we asked the President to comment on the challenges faced in hiring and retaining personnel. The recommendation is on page 21 and is to see the USM overview for system-wide recommendations. And that concludes my presentation.
Great job. Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Ashby.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair King and committee members, and thank you again for the opportunity to testify today, and thank you for your support of higher education and of UMBC specifically. I'd also like to thank Sarah Baker for her excellent analysis. It's good to see you again, Sarah. Thank you. And
She's one of our best.
She is. I'm delighted to have Chancellor Perman here. I know he's not able to be here for everybody, but he's here for me. So I feel pretty special.
Oh, he's been here plenty, let me tell
I
you.
don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that part. I don't want to hear that. I will just say it is an absolute privilege to work for him and for the USM. And so I am joined at the table today by our Vice President of Administration and Finance, Kathy Detloff. Also joining me in the audience today is Christy Michael, who is the AVP for Administration and Finance, along with our Vice President of Government Relations and Community Affairs, Candace Dotson-Reed, and our AVP, who you've already mentioned, Jake Weissman. I also have a couple of our faculty and staff in the audience. Anupam Joshi is the Dean of the College of Engineering and Information Technology, and Debbie Michaels is the Program Administrative Specialist in the Division of Information Technology. So I am happy to see all of them here. I'll just begin by saying that the support for higher education, for public higher education in the state of Maryland, and in particular from the General Assembly, the Governor, the University System of Maryland, and its Board of Regents, is truly unique and extraordinary. Now in my second year here as president of UMBC, I continue to be grateful and energized by the work that we are doing every day to educate Marylanders and to contribute to the state's vibrancy, well-being, and economic strength. Chair King and committee members, you have received our written responses to the 2 questions posed of us. If I may, I'd like to offer brief words expanding upon the first question regarding need-based financial aid. While it is true that UMBC's need-based aid declined slightly over the 6-year period from fiscal year 17 to 22, it is also true that our students with the greatest need received more financial aid than they had before, not less. And that is because many of those students, in addition to receiving a need-based scholarship, were also deserving of merit awards. In fiscal year 22, UMBC awarded $4.3 million in merit scholarships to 1,045 Pell-eligible students, and that's up from $2 million awarded from the merit pool to 496 Pell-eligible students in fiscal year 17. This is just a reflection, as you have spoken about before, of the brilliance of these amazing students who also have significant need. So in this 5-year period, we were in fact increasing our institutional aid to students with the highest financial need, but we did so through a combination of merit and need-based aid. So thank you for allowing me to expand upon our written response, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Let me just say, you had big shoes to fill when you took that job, and you have done a remarkable job.
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
it's been a good couple of years for you. So
Well,
UMBC is going strong.
Thank you
Happy to
so
see
much.
that.
Thank you so much.
You know, and I've mentioned this earlier, it's almost to me like a crisis with our kids, and I really see it so much in my district. When you've got a student that they don't even have enough money to put food on the table or pay their rent, the idea of higher education is just not even in their thought process at this point. And so I'm not sure how to get to these younger kids to make them understand that it will be possible, that if they want to go to college, they will be able to find a way to do it. I'm just not sure how to get there, but I think it's something that all of us have to work on. I just see it so much when I talk to kids that just have kind of a desperation that they don't know what they'll be doing. Their parents have had to say to them, we can't afford to send you to college. So, and I think it's just growing, and we have to find a way around that.
So I will tell you, as the Chancellor said previously, this is a priority for me, for us at UMBC, and our intent is to actually go out into our middle schools, but maybe even earlier than that, and really communicate with parents, families, with those kids, the opportunities, but also the reality of financial aid and how it works. Many people just can't even imagine it.
Yeah, no idea.
And so it's actually one of my goals, and my team behind me is going to scream because I say it all the time. I want every middle schooler in the state to step on my campus.
Yeah,
But I want to go to them first.
Yeah, I would love
Because I
that.
want them to see what's possible, but also really help their parents, counselors, everybody really understand it is actually accessible.
yeah. I have an 11-year-old granddaughter that's in middle school, and she announced to me that she is going to go to University of Maryland, and she's going to become a lawyer and move to the city and live by herself. So somebody's gotten to her.
There you go, there you go, there you go. Well, thank you.
And I do want to say, while you're sitting there, Dr. Ann Kademian is here from USG, one of my favorite people and one of my favorite schools. I'd just like everybody to recognize that she's here. Do we have any comments from any of the members? I think you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next we have the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. Yashadari? Right.
Thank you.
I did okay. And Chanel Compton is here from the commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
and the members of the committee. I am Yashodhara Rai, the DLS analyst for Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. Chapters 451 and 452 of 2022 established the commission as an independent unit within the executive branch. This is the first year for its independent analysis. Prior to this, the commission's budget was included in the Boards, Commissions, and Offices unit of the executive branch. The commission's aim is to educate both the Maryland citizens and visitors about the importance of the African American history in the state by discovering, documenting, preserving, and endorsing Maryland's African American heritage. The commission also oversees the operation of the Banneker Douglas Museum, the official state museum on African American history and culture. As shown here on page 1, the budget for the commission increases by approximately $22,000 for fiscal 25 allowance. Chapters 451 and 452 require that the governor include $1.6 million for the commission in the annual budget bill. This has increased the commission's budget from approximately $834,000 in fiscal 23 to $1.6 million in fiscal 24 working appropriation and fiscal 25 allowance. On page 2, I wanted to highlight the African American Heritage Preservation Program grants that is being administered by the Commission with the Maryland Historical Trust. This program aims to identify and preserve the historical and cultural sites of the African American heritage. It is a $5 million annual grant, which recently awarded 24 recipients, including Maryland's nonprofit organizations and one state agency on January 19th of this year. Although this program is being administered by the Commission, it is not included in its budget. Funding for this program is included in the capital budget appropriation for the Department of Planning. Exhibit 1 on page 3 shows that 83% of the fiscal 25 allowance supports personnel, which includes 11 regular positions, and the remaining funding reflects operational expenses. Exhibit 2 on pages 4 and 5 presents the proposed budget change. The largest change in fiscal 25 allowance is driven by the net change in personnel due to the conversion of 2 contractual full-time equivalent positions to regular positions. I would like to point out that the fiscal 25 statewide salary adjustments, including for the new positions, are centrally budgeted in the statewide account in the Department of Budget and Management, DBM, and are generally not included in the agency's budget. But there has been a technical error for the commission, and a recommended action is provided, which we will discuss later in the presentation. Moving on to personnel data on page 5. The fiscal 25 allowance includes 2 contractual conversions. One position is for research and preservation specialist that drafts and coordinates the grant agreements, and the other position is an agency grant specialist who supports and assists in writing and researching grants to the grantees. There are 4 vacant positions as of December 31st, 2023. Exhibit 3 on page 6 shows the visitors' engagement with the Banneker Douglas Museum from fiscal 2019 to 2023. Starting fiscal 2020, the engagement includes in-person and online visitors, mostly the website visitors. And beginning fiscal 22, the engagement data is reported as in-person and online visitors, which includes various online platforms like the Commission's website, museum's website, and social media. This has increased the engagement count by approximately 100,000 visitors from 2020, when the online visitors were only website visitors, to fiscal 2022, when all online platforms were included. Exhibit 4 on page 7 shows the breakdown of these online platform visitor counts that started in fiscal 22. The blue bars are the visitor counts for fiscal 22, and the red bars are for fiscal 23. As you can see, the highest engagement counts are through Facebook engagement. Exhibit 5 on page 8 shows the various events attended by the commissioners in each fiscal year from 2019 to 2023, including festivals, meetings, and similar events. Although this has more than doubled from 134 in fiscal 2022 to 276 in fiscal 23, this measure has yet to return to the pre-pandemic level of 465 events attended in fiscal 2020. We request the Commission to comment on how operations have changed since becoming an independent agency and its plans for continued expansion and engagement with the community. We also request the agency to comment on how events attended by the commissioners impact the museum's operations, expansions, and engagement with the community. DLS's recommended action is on page 9. As mentioned earlier, the Commission's budget includes health insurance costs for new positions, which has double budgeted the cost, and DLS recommends reducing this funding for health insurance costs to the amount of $29,000 as a technical correction. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great job. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Greetings, Madam Chair King, and thank you, Rai, for your work working with our amazing CFO, Shellen Holland, with this impressive report. Greetings, member of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to the Department of Legislative Services analysis of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture fiscal year 2025 budget. The Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture has improved in its operation of the Banneker Douglas Museum and co-administration of the African American Heritage Preservation Grant since our independent status. The following is an outline of administrative and programmatic improvements. 1, finance and fiscal management. The Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture has hired a full-time Chief Financial Officer to work directly with the Executive Director, myself, and the Commission to manage the Commission's budget, refine financial procedures, pay bills, assist with grants management, and manage vendors and capital repair expenditures. Having a CFO focus solely on the Commission's operational and capital budget and finances has made our programming, administration, capital work, and operations more efficient and effective. 2, museum exhibitions, youth, and public programs. Our museum offers a myriad of youth and community programs, exhibitions. We conduct statewide research, amongst our many other services. The independent state status has ensured that all our work is solely aligned with our mission and national standards. The museum's collections, research, exhibitions, and programs are aligned with the American Alliance of Museums core standards, the Association for the Study of African American Life and Histories annual themes, and the Association of African American Museums annual priorities. 3, management. The Commission is a dedicated board of commissioners tasked with governing the Banneker Douglas Museum and supporting the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Program through staffing. As such, there is a clear line of authority and communication with staff and commissioners. Commission leaderships works closely with the executive director to support and evaluate her work and development. In addition, the commission has a stronger connection with the governor's office as the commission chair, vice chair, and executive director meets with their office biweekly to discuss commission updates and community needs. That concludes my recommendation. Oh, my response, excuse me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any comments from the committee? Okay, thank you very much. I also have a Deborah Michaels. From UMBC?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we read that wrong.
I think we're finished with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Michaels, I don't think you were signed up originally, but come to the table for a, okay.
Excellent, thank you, thank you. Sorry, things happen. I appreciate your time, Madam Chair, committee members. And I want to actually reiterate, Dr. Shears-Ashby has been phenomenal. One of the things that Dr. Rabowski always did was he was talking to students all the time. She does the same thing. That's huge, that the students can talk to the president of the
Absolutely.
university. And it makes them feel more engaged and more seen and acknowledged, which is
Okay.
definitely huge. Okay, so now again, my name is Debbie Michaels, and I want to address the concerns about the hiring and retaining personnel since the end of the pandemic. I've worked at UMBC for over 16 years. I'm also the president of our union, so therefore I have the knowledge of what is happening all over campus. It begins with retention. We began experiencing a mass exodus of staff in departments that rescinded the ability to telework. We had already proven that a vast majority of staff were more productive working remotely. The approval of telework is given to the individual departments and supervisors, which is overtly visible and exposes the inequity of those decisions. Next, we have wage compression. Though we have received COLAs and merit increases recently, years of not receiving these increases during the previous administration has contributed to our salaries not keeping up with the actual cost of living. With the vacancies, we have staff who have remained doing the work of multiple positions. They also witness new projects and materials being purchased now when departments stated in the past they did not have the budget. This indicates that they are using the funds from the vacancies to fund these projects at the expense of the people that are doing the multiple jobs. This affects morale, which leads to people leaving. Institutional knowledge is a valuable asset that is not being taken into consideration with these decisions to compensate staff and offer environments that promote productivity and build strong teams. Lastly, to fill these vacancies, the job postings list the bottom of the pay scales, well below the market wages for the skill sets they are requiring. Those postings are not attracting a quality pool of candidates, and thereby the vacancies remain unfulfilled. We are passionate about serving our students.
I hate to do this, but you need to wrap it up.
I do. Having the staff and the resources necessary to do our jobs effectively and efficiently will help us to make the phenomenal education at UMBC happen.
Thank you.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, this ends our hearing for today.